Everyone told me prom was supposed to be the best night of high school, that perfect, glittery farewell to 4 years of chaos, cliques, and crushes. But mine? Mine started with a curling iron burn on my neck and ended in silence. And in between, I found out what it really means to be disposable. I'm 17. My name's Cassidy Moore, and I've never been the type of girl guys fight over. I'm more the girl who knows everyone's schedule but gets left off the invite list. I'm smart, quiet, maybe a little awkward, but I've got a good heart. I thought that mattered, especially to Jake Bennett, captain of the lacrosse team, perfectly tousled hair, always wearing a smug little smile like he knew girls were looking at him. We had AP English together, and at first, I thought he barely knew my name. But then, he started talking to me during group projects, asking about my Spotify playlists, sitting next to me even when he didn't have to, and I fell hard. So when he asked me to prom, in front of everyone, with roses and a stupid handmade sign that said let's rewrite our ending at prom, I thought, maybe I was wrong. Maybe guys like Jake could like girls like me. I said yes. Of course I said yes. The next few weeks were magic. He'd walk me to my locker, text me good morning, call me at night to talk about nothing. It was like stepping into someone else's life, one where I mattered. And then prom week hit, and Jake changed. It started small, shorter texts, one-word replies, a few missed calls. I told myself he was busy. Prom was a lot, right? Guys get overwhelmed too. I was so deep in denial I didn't even see it coming. The night before prom I texted him, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." No reply. But I still got my nails done. Still let mom take 100 pictures of me in the light blue dress we'd picked out together. Still waited by the window, watching the driveway. He never showed. No call. No explanation. I waited in my dress for 2 hours. My corsage wilted in the fridge. My mom tried to make jokes, but I saw the way she kept checking her watch behind her smile. Eventually, I went upstairs and locked my bedroom door. I didn't cry right away. I just sat there staring at the string of unanswered texts on my phone. "Hey, are you okay? Did something happen? Are you still coming, Jake?" And then nothing. I took off my heels, wiped off my makeup, unclipped the curl, and still no reply. By midnight, I broke. I sobbed so hard my chest hurt. I kept thinking, what did I do wrong? Did I say something? Was I not pretty enough? Cool enough? Too much? The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and mascara crusted on my cheeks. My mom tried to talk to me, but I wasn't ready. I spent all day in bed scrolling through social media, and that's when I saw it. A friend tagged me in a story. It was a video of prom, flashing lights, loud music, and right there in the middle of it, Jake, dancing, laughing, wrapped around Kaylee Richards, the head cheerleader. He didn't forget, he didn't get sick. He just traded up, and as if that wasn't enough, I opened my messages and saw he'd blocked me. Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, gone, like I never existed. I thought I'd hit bottom the night before. But this was the crawl space, under rock bottom. I curled up and screamed into my pillow until my throat went raw. But then something inside me snapped. I wasn't just sad anymore. I was angry. Because you know what else I had? I had screenshots, dozens of them. Text from Jake, some sweet, sure, but some disgusting. Things he said when he thought I was under his spell. Things he said about girls at school, about Kaylee, about his own mom. And they weren't just immature, they were vile. I'd saved them at first because I liked rereading his sweet messages. But now, I saw them for what they were, receipts. And I knew exactly where to send them. See, Jake's mom, Ms. Bennett, teaches at my little brother's elementary school. She's one of those perfectly perfect tip PTA types, always posting inspirational quotes and mother-son selfies. I printed the worst texts, not all of them, just enough. And I slid them into a plain white envelope. I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. That was the beginning of it. I didn't expect her to believe me right away. I figured she'd just toss it. Or worse, show it to Jake and let him laugh it off. But something told me to wait. And I didn't have to wait long. The next week at school, Jake wasn't at his locker, or at lunch, or in class. People were whispering. Something about a fight with his mom and phone privileges gone. Kaylee blocked me too. But not before I saw her story. A blurry pic of Jake's phone on the kitchen counter. A long typed-out message from Mom that read, "You're grounded, and I'm beyond disappointed in who you're becoming." The caption? Just a crying emoji and meow. That's when I knew. She read it. And Jake was finally getting the silence he gave me. But this story's not just about getting even. This is the part where I started putting myself back together. And if Jake thought ghosting me would break me, he really had no idea who I was becoming next. After I sent that envelope, I thought I'd feel satisfied, like all the pain he dumped on me would disappear just because I returned some of it. But it didn't work like that. There was still this heavy weight inside me, like I was walking around with a cracked rib, smiling so nobody would notice. I wasn't just hurt because Jake ghosted me, I was humiliated. At school, it was like everything split in half. Some kids looked at me with sympathy, the kind that feels like pity, the kind that burns your skin. Others whispered behind their hands, probably wondering what I did to make the perfect Jake walk away. And then there were the ones who didn't even care, who never saw me in the first place. I was invisible again. I sat alone at lunch for a full week. My best friend, Erin, had tried to be there, but she was stuck between me and Kaylee, and I didn't blame her for folding. Loyalty isn't easy when you're 17 and scared of losing your place in the food chain. I pretended I was fine. Earbuds in. Hoodie up. But I watched everything, and I noticed Jake stopped smiling. He looked tired, eyes baggy, jaw clenched. Even his walk was different, slower, heavier. I overheard someone say his mom had taken his phone and was making him volunteer at a women's shelter. I wanted to laugh, but I didn't, because while he was losing his phone privileges, I was trying to remember how to feel like a person again. One afternoon, I found myself sitting in the library with my laptop open, staring at a blank Google Doc. Not for school, not for an essay, just a blank page. I didn't know what I was doing until my fingers started moving. At first it was just a paragraph, a raw, messy account of that night. The blue dress, the waiting, the silence. Then it spilled into everything before it. The texts, the build-up, the lies. And soon, I was writing every night. I called it Ghosted in Blue. It wasn't a journal. It was a story. My story. But also, not. I gave the girl a different name, made her sharper, funnier, more observant. I gave Jake a new name too. Logan. Somehow it made the writing easier when I could step back and pretend it wasn't real. But it was. Every word of it. I started writing every night after dinner, curled up on my bed, typing like I had something to prove. And I did. I wanted to prove that what happened to me wasn't small, that it mattered, even if no one else ever read it. But then Erin texted me, out of nowhere. "Hey, I read something. Was it you?" My stomach dropped. I'd been posting anonymous snippets of Ghosted in Blue on a small teen writing forum. Just a few paragraphs here and there. Nothing with names, nothing with school references, just feelings. But I guess feelings are easy to recognize when they're real. I didn't know what to say. I panicked. Then I typed, "Maybe." She replied almost immediately. "It was amazing and heartbreaking. You should finish it." I stared at that message for a long time, because Erin had chosen Kaylee's side at prom. But maybe, just maybe, she regretted it. A few days later, I heard Jake had to go to counseling, not at school, but with his mom. Apparently, she found even more than what I sent. Things I never saw, things he'd deleted. I tried not to let my imagination run wild, but it did. And I'll be honest, it felt good. not because I wanted him to hurt, but because I wanted him to see what he'd done. The day everything changed, I was in the school library again. I had just posted chapter 6 of Ghosted in Blue. I was getting more comments than ever. Strangers, real people, were telling me my words made them cry, that they'd been there too, that they felt seen. I sat there reading comment after comment, hands shaking, eyes full of tears, but not sad ones, not this time. For once I didn't feel small, for once I felt powerful. Then he showed up. Jake. I didn't even notice him at first. He just slid into the chair across from me like it was casual, like we hadn't gone a month without speaking. I froze. He looked awful, like he hadn't slept in days. His eyes were bloodshot, and his once perfect hair looked like he hadn't styled it at all. Cassidy, he said softly. I closed my laptop. What do you want? He looked around the library, then back at me. I wanted to say I'm sorry. I stared at him, waiting, daring him to make it make sense. I panicked, he said. I liked you. I really did. But people started talking, and Kaylee. No, I cut in. Don't put this on her. You could have told me. You could have said anything. Instead, you let me get dressed up and wait for you like an idiot. He swallowed hard. I know. I was a coward. Silence stretched between us. I read your story, he said quietly. My eyes narrowed. How? He looked guilty. Someone sent me the link, and I knew it was me, even with the fake names. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. I deserved it, he whispered. I nodded once. Yeah, you did. He stood up, awkwardly. I won't bother you again. And just like that, he walked away. That night, I added something new to Ghosted in Blue, a chapter about closure, about facing someone who broke you and realizing they no longer have power over you. I didn't name him. I didn't need to, because this wasn't about Jake anymore. It was about me. I didn't expect him to apologize. Not because he didn't owe me one. He did, 1,000 times over. But because I thought guys like Jake didn't care. They ghost, they move on. They pretend nothing happened. But that day in the library, something shifted. Not between us, that was already dead and buried. But inside me. It was the first time I looked him in the eye and didn't flinch. Didn't ache. Didn't want anything from him. Not love. Not an answer. Nothing. I was finally free from him, and that freedom. That space where pain used to sit. It made room for something else. Me. I started sharing more of Ghosted in Blue. I didn't hide it anymore. I linked it to my real name, made a TikTok. Read snippets aloud over piano music. The views weren't massive, but they came steadily. Comments too. Girls saying they'd gone through the same thing. Some thanked me. Others told their own stories in replies. I wasn't just telling my story anymore. I was giving people a way to tell theirs. One night, I got an email. A small indie publisher, Northlight Reads, had come across my work on a teen writing platform. The message was simple. We love your voice. Would you be interested in expanding this into a full book? I had to reread it 5 times before I believed it was real. Cassidy Moore, the girl who got ghosted before prom. They wanted me to write a book? I clicked reply. Yes. Yes, I would. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not even Aaron. I wanted to keep it mine for a while. Hold it close. Like a secret between me and that version of me who cried in a blue dress a few months ago. Writing the full story was harder than I thought. Not because I ran out of material, but because I had to relive every bit of it. The beginning, the hope, the crash, and the crawl back up. But this time, I told everything. I gave my main character her own name, Cassidy, and I let her be messy, angry, confused, brave. I didn't try to make her perfect. I let her exist the way real girls do, full of contradictions and resilience. It took me 4 months. When I finished the final chapter, I cried. Not because I was sad, because I'd done something for myself. Prom photos still popped up on social media. Smiling couples, glittery dresses, limo rides. I used to scroll past them fast, like they were knives. But now I paused, looked, breathed. I didn't get my magical prom night, but I got something better. A story and a voice. One weekend, Erin invited me over. She'd been trying to rebuild our friendship slowly, apologizing in small ways, saving me a seat at lunch, liking my posts, tagging me in funny videos. I hadn't fully let her in, but I was ready to try. We sat on her bedroom floor, eating Sour Patch Kids and watching some cheesy prom movie on Netflix. Halfway through, she turned to me and said, "I still feel awful, about not calling you that night." I shrugged. "It's okay, I get it." "No, you don't," she said, frowning. "You always made it easy for people to forget you were hurting. I saw you the next day at school, and you acted like it didn't crush you. But I knew it did. I should have said something." I didn't say anything for a while. Then I whispered, "It did crush me." Erin reached out and squeezed my hand. "You're amazing, Cass. You made something out of it. Something real." I looked at her. "I'm trying," she smiled. "You're succeeding." The book came out in spring. Ghosted in Blue by Cassidy Moore. Northlight printed a limited run. Nothing huge, but they sent me a box of author copies. When I opened it and held the paperback in my hands for the first time, I couldn't breathe. My name, my words, my pain turned into something beautiful. Mom cried when I gave her the first copy. She held it like it was something sacred. "I always knew you were strong," she said softly. I didn't believe her before, but now I did. At school, something changed. I wasn't suddenly popular, but people saw me differently. Some even asked for signatures. Teachers nodded at me in the hallways. Jake never spoke to me again, but I knew he knew. And that was enough. A few weeks before graduation, our school counselor asked if I'd be interested in speaking at the senior girls' assembly. They wanted someone who could talk about resilience, confidence, relationships, real stuff. My stomach flipped. The idea of standing in front of 150 girls, some of whom laughed at me behind my back, made me want to hide under a desk. But I said yes. The day of the speech, I wore a simple blue blouse, not prom blue, a new one, a softer shade. I wore my hair down. Minimal makeup, just mascara and clear lip gloss. I didn't want to be flashy. I just wanted to be real. I stood at the podium, heart pounding. The gym was filled with girls in their own stages of heartbreak, hope, and confusion. And I told them my story, not just the Jake part, the me part, the part where I almost let someone's silence define my worth. The part where I realized being ghosted didn't mean I was forgettable. It just meant he never really saw me to begin with. And that's not my burden. It's his. I ended the speech like this. Someone once told me I was too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. But I used every bit of that too much and turned it into a book. So if you've ever been told to shrink, don't. Take up space. Speak loud, cry if you need to, and then tell your story. Because your voice matters, even when someone else doesn't want to hear it. The room went silent. Then they clapped. And I felt more seen than I ever had at prom. The next morning, I wake up still in my prom dress. Mascara smudged, hair tangled, my phone buzzing under the pillow. It's like nothing's changed, except everything has. No missed calls from Jake, no apology, no explanation, just an empty inbox, and one text from Erin that says, "Call me." But I don't, because I don't even know what I'd say. My mom tiptoes into the room, holding a tray with toast and scrambled eggs. She doesn't say, "I told you so," doesn't try to make it better with false cheer. She just sets the tray down gently and sits beside me on the edge of the bed. "I was your age once," she says quietly, "and I let a boy ruin my night, too. Only difference is, I didn't have the strength to write about it." I turn my head slowly. She nods toward my nightstand, where the worn notebook with my scribbled story idea sits. I peeked, she admits. I'm sorry. But Cassidy, you have something there. I say nothing, just stare at the wall. I know it hurts now, she continues, but one day, you're going to thank him. My jaw tightens. For what? Humiliating me? No, she says. For helping you realize your worth didn't depend on him showing up. That night, I do something I never thought I'd do. I open my laptop and start typing, not just my journal entries or half-finished poems. A story, a real one, about a girl named Cassidy and a boy who ghosted her before prom. But instead of letting him destroy her, she decides to write everything down, every cringy detail, every missed call, every false promise, and tell the world, not for revenge, not for pity, but for freedom. I call it Ghosted in Blue, blue for the dress, blue for the ache in my chest, blue for the truth. At first I only write for myself, but then I create a blog. Just a small one, barely a header and some plain white background. I post the first chapter anonymously. By the next morning, it has 42 views. A week later, 600. People comment, message, share. Some say they cried. Others say they felt seen. One girl says, "You just described my entire junior year." I don't reply to all of them. I can't. But I read every word. And for the first time, I realize I'm not alone. Erin corners me at lunch. "Cass," she whispers, pulling me aside near the vending machines. "Did you write that blog?" I freeze. She holds up her phone. It's literally called Ghosted in Blue and the girl's name is Cassidy. I open my mouth to lie, but something in her face stops me. I nod slowly. She exhales. "Cass, it's beautiful." Tears well in my eyes. "You think so?" "I know so," she says. "But why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't think anyone would care," I whisper. "Or believe me." Erin's face falls. "Cassidy, I'm so sorry I left you hanging that night. Jake told me he had it covered, that he'd be there soon." I believed him. I nod. "I should have called," she says. "I should have stayed." We stand in silence for a long moment. Then she hugs me. "I want to help," she says. We spend the next week revamping the blog. Erin's good with design. She gives it a new banner, adds a comment section, makes it mobile friendly. Then she looks at me across the table. "Cass," she says, "you need to read this stuff out loud." I blink. "What?" "You need to record it. Like spoken word. Voiceover. People need to hear the emotion in your voice." The idea terrifies me, but something deeper inside says yes. We set up Erin's phone on a stack of textbooks and prop it toward me as I sit on my bedroom floor. I read the chapter where Jake promises to match his tie to my dress. My voice shakes at first, but then steadies. And when I finish the final line, "And she waited and waited until it broke her," I look into the camera with tears in my eyes. Erin posts it on TikTok. By midnight, it hits 10,000 views. A girl comments, "I wore blue too, and he never showed." Another says, "This healed something in me." People are reposting, sharing, tagging friends. Somehow, my heartbreak has become their healing. That weekend, I get an email. It's from a local podcast producer, a woman named Dana Ruiz. She says she saw the clip. She asks if I'd be willing to come on her podcast, Teen Truth, to talk about the blog and what inspired it. My heart races. Me? On a podcast? But I say yes. Because maybe, just maybe, this is what moving on looks like. The podcast studio is tucked inside a co-working space downtown. Dana is kind, mid-30s, warm eyes behind round glasses. She guides me to a booth, fits me with headphones and hits record. And I talk, not just about the prom, but about everything that came before. The pressure, the silence, the pretending. Dana nods as I speak. Her eyes water more than once. When we finish, she says, Cassidy, you're going to change more lives than you know. I believe her. For the first time, I really do. When the podcast drops, I think maybe a dozen people will listen, maybe a few classmates. Aaron's mom, some bored Spotify scrollers, but within 48 hours, it hits 60,000 plays, and my email inbox explodes. Girls from Florida, Oregon, Maine, even one from London, they all say the same thing. This happened to me too. Your words said what I couldn't. Thank you for making me feel seen. It's overwhelming, but in the best way. Because for the first time since prom night, I feel like I'm not just surviving, I'm leading. A week later, Dana sends me another message. Would you consider turning Ghosted in Blue into a book? I have connections with a small press that loves raw, real voices from young women. I think they'd be interested. I reread the message 5 times. Me? A book? I don't even know how to write a proposal. But Dana walks me through it. She introduces me to a woman named Marcy, a junior editor at Riverbend Publishing. Marcy reads my blog, then calls me the same day. You've got something rare, Cassidy, she says. Your story doesn't just expose pain, it teaches resilience. Within a month, I sign a contract. Just like that, I'm going to be an author. But that's not even the craziest part, because a few days after the announcement goes public, Jake's mom shows up at my house. I'm in the kitchen with my mom when we hear a knock. My mom answers. Her face stiffens. Mary, she says coolly. Jake's mom looks nervous. She clutches her purse like it's a shield. Hi, Dana. I'm sorry to show up unannounced. My mom crosses her arms. Cassidy's inside. Mary glances at me and exhales. I won't stay long, she says. But I had to say this in person. I stand at the edge of the living room, arms crossed. She steps forward, her voice soft. I know I'm probably the last person you want to see, she says. And I won't defend what Jake did. I didn't raise him to treat people that way. I say nothing. She continues. But after I read your story and saw the podcast, I realized how blind I'd been. I thought Jake was just a teenager. That boy's made mistakes. She pauses. Her voice cracks. But what he did wasn't a mistake. It was cruelty. My throat tightens. She looks me in the eyes. I'm sorry, Cassidy. I should have protected you when he didn't. I nod slowly. I believe you, I say. I always have. After she leaves, I sit in my room for a long time, not crying, not shaking, just breathing. Because it feels like something's lifted, something heavy I didn't know I'd been carrying. It's not forgiveness, but it's something close. The book takes a few months to finish. I write late into the night, fueled by mint tea and Spotify playlists. Erin reads every draft. My mom makes edits with a red pen, like she's back in teacher mode. And when the cover design comes through, a pair of empty blue heels on a dark stage, I cry. Because that girl in the heels, she's not broken anymore. She's standing in the spotlight. The book launches in February, just before Valentine's Day. Perfect timing, I guess. We do a small event at the local library, a reading, Q&A, cupcakes and blue balloons. I expect a handful of people. Instead, nearly 100 show up. Girls in jeans, moms with daughters, teachers, librarians. Even some boys, awkward, quiet, curious. I read the chapter about prom night. This time, my voice doesn't shake. At the end, a girl no older than 14 comes up to me and says, "You saved me." I was about to text him back, but I read your book and I didn't. I hug her, tightly. By spring, I get invited to speak at a regional youth summit in Charlotte. I stand on a stage in front of 500 teens and tell them that heartbreak doesn't have to define them, that being ghosted doesn't mean you're invisible, that the worst moments of your life can become the foundation for something incredible. I tell them how a ruined night turned into a story, and how that story turned into a movement. That summer, Riverbend asks me to consider writing a follow-up, not just about Jake, but about other stories, other voices, maybe even collecting anonymous submissions from girls around the world who've been ghosted, used, dismissed. I call it Left on Read, and this time, I won't be the only author. I'll be the editor, the curator, the big sister voice for girls who haven't found their own yet. And Jake, he's nowhere. I hear rumors he's taking a gap year, that he left social media, that he told friends the story wasn't true, but none of that matters anymore, because my story isn't about him. It never really was. It's about me and how I showed up, even when he didn't. I used to think healing would feel like a finish line, like one day I'd wake up, stretch and say, okay, I'm fine now. But healing isn't linear, it's a wave. Some mornings I feel like a rising tide, strong, certain, moving forward. Other mornings I wake up from dreams where I'm still sitting on the porch in that blue dress, phone in hand, waiting for headlights that never come. But now, I know how to ride the wave. Left on Read becomes more than a book. It becomes a platform. We start a website. Erin helps me design it. We add submission forms, a blog, and a place where anyone, girls, boys, anyone, can send in their story anonymously. The first week, we get 3, the next week, 54. Some are short. He ghosted me after we kissed in the gym parking lot. Some are heartbreaking. She said she loved me. Then she blocked me on my birthday. Some are raw confessions. I ghosted someone, and I hate myself for it. I read every single one. I cry sometimes. But mostly I feel something deeper: connection, compassion, purpose. We run a contest. Your voice, your story. The prize? We feature 5 stories in the print version of Left on Read. We get over 2,000 entries from all over the country. It's overwhelming, but thrilling. And when the printed book is released, it's not just my voice echoing through the pages, it's ours. One evening, I'm helping Erin bake brownies for her little sister's birthday, when my mom calls me from the living room. There's someone at the door for you. I wipe my hands and come to the front hall and freeze. It's Jake. He's taller than I remember. Still has that boyish smirk, but now it falters under my gaze. He's holding something. An envelope. Hey, he says softly. I fold my arms. Hey! He fidgets. Can I talk to you? I glance back at my mom, who disappears silently into the kitchen. I open the door wider and step outside. Just him and me. On the same porch where everything broke. I know I don't deserve your time, Jake starts. Eyes down. But I had to say it. In person. I say nothing. He exhales, clutching the envelope. I read the book, he admits. At first, I was pissed. Embarrassed. My friends showed me the TikTok and I thought you ruined my life. I raise an eyebrow. And now? He swallows hard. Now I realize I ruined my own. He looks up. I didn't ghost you because I hated you. I ghosted you because I was afraid. I knew I wasn't good enough for you. And instead of showing up, I ran. Like a coward. The words land differently than I expected. Not because they fix anything, but because they're finally honest. What's in the envelope? I ask. He holds it out, a letter. I wrote it 100 times. This version finally felt real. I take it, still silent. He steps back. I don't expect forgiveness, he says. Just maybe some peace. Then he walks away. I don't open the letter that night. Not because I'm scared, but because I want to choose when I read it. A few days later, I sit on my bedroom floor, candles lit, soft music playing, and finally unfold the pages. It's handwritten, 4 pages long. There's pain in his words, regret, shame, clarity, but most of all, there's a tone I hadn't heard from him before. Humility. He doesn't ask me to forget. He doesn't ask me to erase anything. He just says thank you for showing him the cost of silence, for being strong enough for both of us, for turning his absence into something that helped people. I finish the letter, and I don't cry. I breathe. Then I tuck it into the back of my journal, and move on. Months pass. Left on Raid gets picked up by a national distributor. The blog gains traction. Schools start inviting me to speak about emotional resilience, digital ghosting, and storytelling as healing. I'm still just 17. But I feel like I've already lived 1,000 lives. One night after a school event, a teacher pulls me aside. I had a student last year, she says quietly, who refused to talk after being ghosted by her best friend. Wouldn't speak in class. Barely ate. Then she read your book. And the next week she wrote a poem and read it out loud. I smile. Not for me, for her. Walk into prom this year, in a dark sapphire gown, alone. On purpose. People stare, not because I'm the girl who got stood up anymore, but because I'm the girl who stood up and spoke out. I glide across the gym floor, blue lights dancing above, and I feel something I never thought I'd feel again. Peace. When the music slows, a classmate I barely know approaches me. Hey, he says, awkward smile. Would you like to dance? I consider it. Then I smile. Yeah, I say. I'd like that, because I don't need a date to feel whole. But I also don't need to hide anymore. That night, when I get home, I post one last chapter to Ghosted in Blue. A goodbye. Not to Jake, but to the version of me who once sat on this very porch, knees shaking, heart splintering, waiting for someone who never came. I don't wait anymore. I write. I walk. I write. I speak. I shine. You'd think the end of a story would be when the pain stops, when you feel healed, free, whole again. But now I know the truth. The end of one story is just the beginning of another. Graduation day comes with blazing sun and endless speeches. I sit in my row of blue robes, tassel flicking against my cheek, looking out at the crowd. Somewhere in the back, my mom is sitting next to Erin, probably crying through her sunglasses. Next to them, Mary, Jake's mom. She emailed last week to ask if she could come, said she wanted to cheer for me not out of guilt, but pride. I said yes, not because I owed her anything, but because I've learned what it means to make space for good people, no matter where they came from. When my name is called, the applause is louder than I expect. The principal pauses before I shake his hand. You made our school proud, he says quietly. I nod, holding back tears. I don't cry on stage. I just lift my chin and walk across, diploma in hand, shoes clicking against the platform. Not heels. Not the same blue ones from prom. These are white sneakers, clean and steady, because this time, I'm not trying to look perfect for someone else. I'm walking for me. After the ceremony, the crowd spills across the lawn. There's laughter, hugging, camera flashes. Jake stands at the edge, near a tree, not in a robe. He didn't finish school with us, but he's watching. When our eyes meet, he gives me a simple nod. I return it. No words. No need. Some moments only require silence, the kind that brings closure, not confusion. That evening, we hold a small party at Erin's house. She bakes a cake that looks like a stack of books, icing titles like Ghosted in Blue and Left on Red. My mom frames my book cover and hangs it by the punch table. There's music, fairy lights strung across the backyard, and at one point I find myself surrounded by girls I barely knew during school. They all read the book. They all tell me the same thing. You gave me the words I couldn't say. 2 months later, I start a summer internship at a publishing house downtown. It's not glamorous. Lots of coffee runs and editing manuscripts nobody else wants. But I don't care, because every day I walk through those glass doors, I remember what it felt like to be voiceless, invisible, unseen. And now, I'm exactly where I belong. They assign me to the youth memoir section. My supervisor, Carla, says she wants to give me a real challenge. I review a manuscript written by a 16-year-old girl named Amara. She writes about getting ghosted by her best friend and her boyfriend the same week. But it's not just about heartbreak. It's about identity, trust, and reclaiming power. I read it 3 times in one night. And when I send Carla my notes, I end with this. This story matters. She's ready. Let her speak. Carla approves it the next day. And just like that, I've passed something on. A torch. A platform. A belief that young voices do deserve space. One afternoon, while waiting for the train, I get an email from a teacher in Michigan. She teaches 10th grade English. She says they added Ghosted in Blue to their curriculum. Every student reads it. And for their final project, they have to write their own chapter of healing. She attaches a few samples. I read them on the platform bench, tears spilling freely, because this isn't just my story anymore. It's a ripple, a chorus, a movement that began with heartbreak and turned into hope. Later that summer, I get invited to speak at a national teen summit in New York. Thousands of students, dozens of speakers. When I walk on stage, I'm nervous, but steady. I'm wearing my favorite navy dress, flats this time, and a silver pendant shaped like a typewriter. I step up to the mic and look out at a sea of young faces, wide-eyed, restless, ready. I take a breath, then I speak. Not about Jake, not about the text, but about the power of showing up, even when someone else disappears. About how silence isn't always peace. About how telling the truth is never too dramatic. And when I say my last line, I don't look down. I look up, straight ahead, into the future I made for myself. One chapter, one page, one tear at a time. Months from now, I'll be accepted into my dream college. I'll major in creative writing, minor in psychology. I'll launch a nonprofit helping teens tell their stories through spoken word, poetry, memoir. But none of that is the real ending. Because this story, it doesn't end with a boy. It doesn't end with a book. It ends with me, standing, speaking,